She was filthy, starving, chained in a market stall like livestock. The crowd called her worthless, too alien to matter. But one human stopped. He didn't see a creature, he saw someone who needed help. He gave her food, gave her a name, and when she trembled in his arms, she whispered the words that changed everything. "Please don't leave me, human." And he never did. They called her unclean property, barely above an animal. She had no name, no voice anyone cared to hear. She was small for her kind, thin limbs wrapped in rags, skin bruised from beatings, and eyes too large for her gaunt face. The market stall where she sat reeked of fear, filth, and forgotten souls. The slavers didn't even advertise her, they just chained her to a post behind the real merchandise. But still he saw her. Sergeant Aaron Hale wasn't supposed to be there. He'd finished his deployment on Droz 7 and was waiting for a transport off-world. The war was over, or so the politicians claimed. Hale didn't feel peace in his bones yet. He wandered the fringe markets of the trade zone, hands in his jacket, eyes scanning out of habit. Then he stopped, not because of the weapons or the noise, but because a pair of eyes were locked on him, watching, not begging, not afraid, just waiting. The alien girl, or woman, he couldn't tell, flinched when he stepped closer. Her species was unfamiliar to him. Furred along the arms, digitigrade legs, faint shimmer to her skin under the lights. Her wrists were shackled so tight the flesh had split. She looked half-starved, half-dead. The slaver noticed his interest. "Not for sale," the creature grunted. "Refuse stock. No buyers. Stupid thing won't even speak. You want a real companion? I've got." Hale raised a hand. "How much?" The slaver blinked. "You don't want this one, soldier. Broken. Can't breed. Not even." I said, "How much?" He paid in Federation credits, enough to make the slaver's eyes bulge. He didn't haggle. Didn't wait. He stepped forward, pulled out a knife, and cut the chain. The girl didn't move at first, then slowly, carefully, like she couldn't believe it, she followed him. She collapsed 5 steps later. He caught her before she hit the ground, light as a feather, shaking like a leaf. He carried her through the alleyways, back to the shuttle quarters. No one stopped him. No one asked questions. They never did, not when a human had that look in his eyes. He cleaned her wounds, gave her water, fed her small portions at first, careful not to overwhelm her system. She never said a word, never made a sound, but she watched him, with those same unblinking eyes that had called to him through the crowd, like she was waiting to see if this, too, would end in pain. Days passed. She began to move more, sat up on her own, drank without shaking, flinched less when he entered the room. Hale didn't push her, he just stayed close. Spoke softly, told her about Earth, about rain and wind and green things. She listened. On the 5th night, she spoke. "Why?" One word, raw, cracked, barely a whisper. He looked at her, set down the cloth he was using to clean her hands, and said, "Because you were hurting. Because no one else would. Because no one deserves to be left like that." She stared at him for a long time. Then, almost too quiet to hear, "Do I belong to you now?" "No," he said. "You belong to yourself." She didn't speak again that night. But she didn't look away either. He named her Kira. She didn't object. He wasn't sure if it was her true name, but when he said it, something softened in her face. When he touched her shoulder, she didn't flinch. When he smiled, she tried to mimic it. He filed the paperwork, got her registered as a protected ward under the Interstellar Rescue Accord. There were forms, DNA scans, interviews with board clerks who asked all the wrong questions. But he didn't care. He stood by her through it all. When she walked again, she clung to his side, unsure of the world beyond the cell. But Hale moved slow, patient, taught her how to speak more fluently, how to eat different foods, how to wear clothes that weren't made of chains. Kira began to laugh. The sound startled them both the first time. It was high-pitched, quick, almost like a hiccup. She covered her mouth. He grinned. She didn't stop after that. They left Droz 7 together, boarded a freighter headed toward Federation space. People stared at her in the corridors. Some whispered, but Hale's presence kept most of the ugliness at bay. His scars spoke louder than their judgments. On the 4th moon of Lyra Terra, they found a home, a small house with stone walls and wind that smelled like pine. Kira grew stronger, taller, her fur thickened, her posture straightened. She danced in the rain, dug her hands into soil, stared at the stars like they were promises. She began building things, small toys, delicate figurines, strange devices that glowed faintly. She was smart, brilliant, even. Hale watched her with quiet pride. One night, Months after their arrival, she sat beside him on the porch. "I dreamed you didn't come," she said softly. He turned. "But I did." She nodded. "You're the only one who did." There was a long pause. Wind in the trees. Insects buzzing. "Do you want me to go now?" she asked. He looked at her, confused. "Why would I want that?" "Because I'm not useful. I can't fight. I'm not human. I was just broken." Hale didn't answer right away. He stood, walked back inside, and returned holding a cracked mirror, one she'd once refused to look at. He held it up to her. "You're not broken," he said. "You're healing." She stared into her reflection, then turned to him. Tears welled up in her eyes, large, shimmering, trembling. And then she said it, the words that would stay with him forever. "Just don't leave me, human." He knelt beside her, took her hand, held it gently. "I won't," he whispered. "You're not alone anymore." And in that quiet corner of a vast, indifferent galaxy, an alien who'd been forgotten found something worth living for. And a human who thought he was done with war found something worth protecting again.